So when we go inside a home, basically what we do, we come inside your place of living and we look for and identify fall hazards. So where do you think the number one place that people fall inside their home? Bathroom. Yes, in the bathroom. That's normally where we find them. Because when you're in your bathroom, you're taking a shower, or you're taking a bath, you get the moisture that builds up, and a lot of us have rugs or mats in our bathroom. The biggest problem with that is that if they're not the right kind, you will slip. They will cause you to slip and fall. So if your bathroom floor, or even if you have a mat in your kitchen, if it doesn't have that rubber backing, then we need to replace it. And a lot of times when we go, we'll take the carpet, and if it starts sliding, we'll roll it up. So nope, sooner or later, this is going to cause you to fall and hurt yourself. So the bathroom, having loose rugs. And the thing is, we know this. We know that the bathroom can be a dangerous place, but what have we done about it? Have we taken those rugs and moved them, or got a double-sided sticky tape? Have we prevented a fall from taking place in our bathroom or restroom? If not, then that's something that we need to do. Not only that, but even inside our bathtub, where we take a shower, they have little footing things that you can stick in there to help you keep you from slipping. So the bathroom is the number one place we find people. And I have lots of stories on that. The second place in the home, what do you think that is? Yes, in the kitchen. Why? Because some people like to put rugs in their kitchen. So that is another area, extremely dangerous area if you slip and fall, because what if you're cooking for something? You're cooking something on the stove and it's hot. You go to slip and fall, normally you're reaching out to grab something, and if it's a pot or a pan up there, you can burn yourself. So we don't want that to happen. And I will say that even though we don't teach it, if you go to YouTube and look up, there are fire departments that have done studies, and there are people that will just look up how to fall. So a lot of times when we go to fall, we can hurt ourselves even more. Well, if I do fall, what's the right way to fall? Well, that's a good question. Because sometimes if we're falling forward and we go to place our hands, it can end up with a broken wrist or arm, just depending on the height you're falling from. But on YouTube, if you look it up, they will show you different measures of if you do fall, how to fall, what to protect. And then once you fall, well, how do I get up? What do I use to get up? They'll show examples of a person using a chair, getting up, or using their bed to get up. So I recommend that everyone take a look at that. It's just good information to know. So loose rugs, that's one of the reasons why people will fall. Uneven surfaces. And sometimes rugs will cause that. So if we got our carpet and then we got a rug on top of the carpet, that's an uneven surface. So that can cause us to trip and fall. It's important when we walk, we make sure we go from heel to toe. Heel to toe. If we're just sometimes kind of lackadaisical, we just scoot our feet along, don't feel like picking them up. Well, you bump into an uneven surface, that's going to cause you to fall. The other thing we recommend is that when we're sitting down, there's no need to rush. So when we go to stand up, we make sure we take our time, our feet are planted up underneath us. Because sometimes if you get up too fast, you feel like, oh, I'm a little dizzy, or my balance is not quite right. We take that first step, the next thing we know, we're leaning over and we're falling. So making sure that we take our time when we get up. The other thing, our footing. Making sure we have on the right shoes if we're going to be up walking around. Remember, the shoes that you slip into, if you can slip in them, you can slip out. So we don't really want to walk around in shoes that we can slip in and slip out. Even though it might seem convenient, it's a hazard. It can be dangerous. So we want to make sure when we wear our footing that they're the type that tie around our feet securely, so that way we don't have to worry about that taking place. Lighting is another area, making sure our home is well lit if we're getting up walking around. We want to make sure that we have enough lighting, especially in the middle of the night. A lot of people like to use night lights so they can see their pathway. But to prevent you from falling too, another thing that causes it is clutter. Many of us, as we grow up, we collect things, we don't want to get rid of them, so we start stacking them in places and in corners and in hallways. But the thing is, as we get older, for our older adults, we want them to have as much open space as possible inside their home. Because the thing is, if you have to get up and walk down the hallway, and you have like a cabinet or something that you have some pictures or flower pots or whatever you like, and you got to walk around it, that's when we lose our balance. walking around things will cause us to lose our balance, and that's where we fall. So what we want is a hallway where there's nothing in it. It's just free and clear. The more open space you have, the less likely you're going to trip and fall. So that's one thing we try and encourage people to do. Just keep your space large and open, and just keep it from the clutter taking place. Not only that, but the more clutter we have, the more fuel there is to add to a fire, if there ever is a fire, and the faster that fire will burn and travel. So really, it's more convenient and more helpful to us to have that big open space. When it comes to cords, a lot of times, sometimes we string stuff into our plug outlets, but we want to make sure that if we do that, we're not stringing a cord across the room. And then what do? To cover it, a lot of times we just throw a rug over it. Ah, can't see it. Now I can just walk over it. Again, uneven surface. I've been to homes before, but one lady's house I went to, she had, I couldn't even see the carpet. That's how many rugs she had. She just loved rugs. And they were all different colors and different patterns. And it's like, oh, it's hurting my eyes. But I just told her, I said, wow, are all these rugs? She goes, well, yeah, I like to collect rugs. Of all the things to collect. And I'm like, well, let's see here. I can see a gap this much between this rug, and there's gaps in between all these rugs. And I said, well, the only problem with that is that, look, each rug I step on, it moves. So instead of rolling all of them up, I said, let's just clear a nice, clear pathway for you. And that's what I did. But every time I took a rug and I rolled it up, she was just cringing like, ooh. I was like, are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, I like my rugs. So I removed 8 rugs and I put them in the corner. I said, now, when you get some double-sided sticky tape, if you want to put it down there, you can. Or get rid of these and get the kind that has the rubber mat if you like your rugs that much. So she said she would, but I'm pretty sure that as soon as I left, she took those rugs and put them back down. I've never seen anyone cringe before because I rolled up a rug. I said, but this is to keep you safe. So our job with this program is to help reduce falls from taking place. And it's not just things inside your home, but even outside your home. Let's say you have a sidewalk and it's uneven, the pavement, the ground is sinking in, it's uneven, or you have a loose handrail. Or maybe when you're going up and down stairs, you have a handrail on one side, but really you can use another one on the other side. So that way, using 2 handrails to go up and down the stairs would be even better. So I belong to a group which there's many other businesses, contractors, and just people from all sorts that get together specifically to help out our older adults. So if I go inside a home and I say, wow, you could really use an extra railing inside your bathroom to help you get in and out of the tub, or maybe going up and down your stairs, or maybe in the front of your home, you need another railing, or maybe this one needs fixed, there's people that we can call. We give them, with your permission, we give you their information, and vice versa, so that way you two can connect and they can come over and fix it, repair it, or replace it to little to no cost, or maybe just a little cost, just maybe for materials. But there's a lot of people out there that realize our older adults need help, so let's do what we can to help them. And it's a proven fact that our older adults are living longer now, so that's a great thing. Well, let's do it by, the last thing you want to do is shorten your life by falling. Because what happens when you fall, you break something, not long after, infection sets in, and that's what takes them out. And the thing is, there's a saying that the more you move, the longer you live. And that's so important. So the last thing we encourage is exercise. Making sure you're out walking daily. Or if you have a pet, take your pet for a walk. Or get involved in some type of Tai Chi class or aerobics class. Something to get you up and moving that will strengthen your muscles. People who do that live longer. For example, who do you think is going to live longer? A person who does that? Or the guy who gets up in the morning, fixes his pot of coffee, grabs the remote, sits in this recliner, and that's where he sits all day. What is that doing to his health, to his body? Nothing. It's just sitting there. And sooner or later, especially as we get older, the body gives up. But as we move and as we exercise, it keeps the body going. So that is our fall prevention program. Yes. Give us a call. We will come out and we will inspect and we will just point out things that we see that can be dangerous. Now, in the end, it's up to you. But if we see something that we think needs to be moved, we're going to move it. We're going to help you or assist you in that. I will tell you one quick story about a lady. And I tell you what, It broke my heart because it could have been prevented, but she got moved from her home to not really an assisted living place, but just to a place, it was independent living. Well, her home or her apartment that she kept was so messy and cluttered. And they said, we tried to talk to her about that, but she won't listen to us. Well, maybe you as a firefighter, you got the badge, you got the authority, you can go talk to her. So I did. And even just walking inside her apartment, it was very little space, very little room. And we sat down, we had a heart to heart, and I said, you have to. I said, understand, you're in an independent living facility, but you're not just endangering your life, but everyone else around you. Because if a fire happens to break out here, it's going to travel so fast and get so hot. Maybe one or two people may not make it out of here, all because of something that can be avoided. I said, so please, for your safety and the safety of the workers and the safety of the people that live here, allow them to come in and to help you clear this up. If you have family and friends, yes, we have to clear this area up. And she goes, okay, all right, I've heard enough. She goes, I'll do it. And I said, and just do it, keep it in mind, it's to protect you and the people around you. And I said, I'm gonna check back in a couple weeks. Well, I did, and it was clean. So I'm like, wow, that's really great. I commended her on that. But then a month after that, she went home, and her home was more of she was a hoarder. And her home was worse than the apartment she was staying in temporarily there. A week within being home, she died in her own house fire. She went home, and in that same week she went home, she had a fire, and she passed away from it. We try and help, but it's so important that when we give you that information that people listen and they follow through with that because it means your life, especially when it comes to fire. And that will bring us into fire safety inside our home. So the first line of defense in our home when it comes to fire safety is a smoke alarm. We've been offering a program for the last 15 years. We've had it on the news, we've had it on the newspaper, but we will come out and we will install a detector in your home for free. It's a combination. It's smoke and carbon monoxide. And even though we've been doing this for 15 years, we still can't believe all the phone calls we get from people that don't have one. It's like, in this day and age, why would you not have something to protect yourself and to protect your family? Because your first line of defense is that smoke alarm. And now it's to the point to where if you want to sell your home, you're not even allowed to sell your home unless you have a smoke and carbon monoxide detector on each level of your house. That's how important it is. And then we get people like, well, I have one, but I'm not sure how old it is. So it's recommended that every 10 years, you replace your detector. So I tell people, if you're inside your home, your house, and it's been over 10 years, replace it. If it's hardwired, those are the only ones that we don't work on because we're not electricians. But you can call a handyman or electrician after you bought your detector and they can install it for you very, very quickly. Making sure that you have that is important if you live in an apartment. A good sign that your smoke detector is old is if it starts turning yellow. When we get them, they're nice and white. But if we look up at our smoke detector and it's yellow, that shows aging. And they have different detectors. You know, they have some that are just smoke, and then you can buy a separate unit that's a carbon monoxide. But I say, you know what? Why not just buy a combo, one that covers both? Put one on each level of your home and you're covered. Because, we've had people say, well, how about we put that downstairs, the combination downstairs, and then we'll put just a regular smoke alarm upstairs. Well, the problem with that is that if you're sleeping upstairs, are you going to hear the alarm that's downstairs? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if you're sound asleep and your door is shut, you're not going to hear it until finally the fumes get up to where your bedroom is. If it's a fire, the same thing with the fire. If you have a hardwired system, so much better than just a regular battery-operated one. Because battery-operated ones won't sound the alarm until the smoke reaches it. When you have a hardwired system, it's going to sound not just that alarm, but every alarm in your home. So those are always better. Either way, as long as you have a smoke alarm in your home with one that's smoke and carbon monoxide, you'll be protected. And normally when that alarm goes off, it will give you at least 2 minutes to get out to safety. So when it comes to that, it's important also to make sure that you have a plan. So not just have a smoke alarm, but if you don't have a plan on what to do, if you have a fire, most people panic. And what do you think kills people in that fire? The smoke will kill you before the fire does. So knowing that is important. Inside your home, doesn't matter how many levels you have, doesn't matter where your kitchen is, where your room is, you should always sleep with your bedroom door closed. Because smoke will always take the path of least resistance, and if that bedroom door is open, guess where the smoke's going? It's going in your room. So when that alarm sounds off and your bedroom door is open, who knows how many breaths of smoke you've taken in? And what people don't know is all it takes is 5 to 6 breaths of smoke. You become confused and disoriented, and now all of a sudden you can't remember the simple things. Like, what do I do? I know I'm supposed to do something, but how do I do it? Where do I go? Well, I'm supposed to call somebody, but you can't think clearly because that smoke is poisonous. And when it gets into your brain and your oxygen and you're breathing that stuff in, it confuses you. 5 to 6 breaths is all it takes. 10 to 12 breaths, and you never wake up. So house fires that we've been in, people laying there in bed, passed away because they didn't get up. 10 to 12 breaths, you never wake up. That's not very many. But the good thing is, if your door is closed, you hear your alarm go off, you can get up, you can check your door, make sure it's not hot to the touch before you open it. And if it's not, then open it and make your way out. If it's filled with smoke, get low and go. Crawl up under that smoke, make your way out to the closest exit. If you panic and you don't know what to do, keep your door closed, go to your window, open it, call 911, and just yell and scream. Grab a towel, a shirt, something, just start waving it in the air. Because for us, when we go to a fire call, no matter if it's a building, if it's a home, we always do a 360. Before we even go in, somebody walks around that building to make sure no one is it's not in the window or hanging or yelling out of the window. We always check that first. Then we go in. So very important. That's why we tell, even with children, they may not like it, but sleeping with your door closed is going to protect you. So having a plan, knowing what to do, and practicing that, just like in our school systems. Each school is required to do 6 fire drills every year, and we check up on that. Especially in a school where you got thousands of kids. If there's a huge fire, everyone starts panicking, and no one remains in order, people get trampled on. We've seen it in many times in different type of clubs and other businesses. A fire is a scary thing. It's hot, and when there's a fire and smoke, it gets dark really quick, and it makes you choke. And if we don't plan and prepare for that, then catastrophes will happen. So we want to prevent that from happening, especially inside our home. So being equipped with a smoke alarm, and making sure you practice a fire drill, and then also having one of these fire extinguishers. How many of you have these inside your home? We should all have one, and normally have it by the kitchen, in the kitchen, under the kitchen cabinet, because most places, that's where the fire starts. So if it's 10 years old, it just depends. If you have for some home ones, a lot of them, they have a pressure gauge on it. So if that arrow is in the green, then it's safe to use. But the other thing, keep in mind that for these fire extinguishers, now for me, when I replace my smoke alarms in 10 years, I replace my extinguishers. Even though they might be in the green, they've been sitting there a while. But the thing is, when it comes to these fire extinguishers, make sure you get one that says ABC. If it says ABC, it will pretty much cover any fire in your home. Whether it's electrical, whether it's a grease fire, wood, paper, paint, whatever. It will cover any fire in your home. If you get an extinguisher that just says A, the only fire it's going to put out is paper and wood. If it's a grease or electrical, it won't put it out. If anything, it might make it bigger because it's not, the chemicals inside doesn't treat that type of fire. But if it says ABC, it'll say it right back here, ABC. It's going to cover any fire inside your home. The other thing to keep in mind, when it comes to changing batteries in our smoke detectors, how many times a year should we change them? Twice. So when you go to change that battery in your smoke alarm, take your fire extinguisher, take it out, and flip it upside down a few times. Loosen up that dry chemical that's inside. And then once you do that, put it back, and it's good for another 6 months because you loosen that dry chemical up. Imagine if that fire extinguisher is sat there in this corner for 5 years and never been touched because you never had a fire. That's a good thing. But what happens if one day you do have a fire? That fire extinguisher has been sitting there for 5 years. That dry chemical, because it hasn't moved, will cake up and start to get hard. And then when you go to use it, you'll see a little puff, and then next thing you know, nothing else is coming out because it's all hardened at the bottom. So that's why it's important. Just shake them up twice a year, let them sit, and then when you go to use it, commit to it. If you have a fire in your home, to use that until it is out. Yes, it will make a mess, but it's better to make, you can always clean up a mess, but you don't have to buy a new home or ruin an apartment. And fire extinguishers, normally the ones that for home use, they're good enough to put out a fire if it's the size of a trash can, but anything bigger than that, don't even bother, because it's not going to put it out. You know, it may slow it down, but it won't put it out. That's our job. Let us do that. Or for some reason you need to use it to clear out an exit. Like, well, the doorway's right there, but there's a fire in front of it. Grab the extinguisher and put it out. And just remember, when you go to use a fire extinguisher, always aim at the base of the fire, not over the top. If you shoot it over the top of the flames, it's just going to fall down and burn off in the fire. But the extinguisher, the dry chemical, is made to suffocate the fire, to take away that oxygen. So if you aim at the base of the fire and sweep it, it's going to put it out just like that, very, very quickly. And on this brochure here, it has directions on how to use it. A lot of people, believe it or not, when they see a fire extinguisher and they never used it, they get intimidated. Like, oh, what do I do with this thing? There's a pin, and there's something to keep that pin inside, like a clippy. So instead of trying to pull that, you take that pin and you just twist, and it's a tie that's on there. And if you twist that pin, that tie pops right off. Just so easy. Hardly to little no effort. Just twist it, pops off, pull that pin, and now you just squeeze and aim the hole. So it's important to have one of those inside your home. When it comes to appliances, how many of you coffee drinkers? Is your coffee pot still plugged up? So when it comes to small appliances, we want to get in the habit. If we're not using it, unplug it. Now at the fire stations, there's guys that drink coffee all day, but it's always being monitored. Someone's always emptying it, making new water. But at home, we don't want to leave something like that plugged up when we're not there. So if we're not using our coffee pot, unplug it. Just because accidents happen, you can forget to turn it off and it's sitting there burning. It could cause a fire. So when it comes to just small appliances, our toaster, if we're not using our toaster, unplug it. Because remember, as long as something is plugged up, it's got an electrical current that's running through there constantly. So if we're not using it, we don't want to have it plugged in. Lamps, not a lot of power that goes through there, but you know, lamps are okay. We've never really had a problem with the lamp. But with things that have long cords and stuff like that, just make sure that the cords aren't frayed, and you know, like the outside plastic is not breaking apart. Because sometimes when we have things through the years, it starts to deteriorate. The wires start showing, and then so a lot of people will take that duct tape, put a temporary fix on it, which we don't recommend at all. Either get a new lamp or get an electrician to come in and put a new cord on it. But just things that, because a lamp doesn't require a lot of power, a lot of juice, but a toaster heats up. It will. Coffee pot will heat up. It will. So things that we use like pretty much every day, if we do use them, make sure that we're unplugging them. And toaster, at least once a week, if you eat a lot of toast. We have seen toasters catch on fire because if you've had that breadcrumb tray at the bottom of it, sometimes you pull it out and you see breadcrumbs that are like dark, look like charcoal. Well, you get enough of those together and that's what it becomes, like charcoal. The next thing you know, you think your toaster's off, but all those little dark breadcrumb pieces start to heat up. Next thing you know, you got a toaster fire. Clean that at least once a week. If you eat a lot of toast, then you'll be good to go. Candles, not too many people use candles anymore, but if you do, just remember, make sure wherever you put a candle, it has a 3-foot surrounding where there's nothing around it. It's not by the window, it's not by a table to where the wind blows and the curtain flies up and the curtain catches it on fire. There should be nothing around that candle within 3 feet. And when you leave the room, put the candle out, especially if you have pets. A lot of people have cats or dogs. If they bump into the table, knock the candle over, fire can start. So just being safe when it comes to that. Christmas lights and stuff like that, especially depending on the weather, how hot it is, how dry it is, it might be wet. And a lot of times with that heat, the heat will melt the coating that's on the outside so that the wires become exposed. So yeah, with something like that, that's why they encourage people put your Christmas lights during Christmas. After Christmas is over, put them up, put them away. Because if it's outside the elements, it's going to start rotting, especially if it gets wet and then it dries. Yeah, it can make that plastic on the outside just disintegrate kind of. So that's another thing to look for. Anything, appliances you have hooked up in your home, check out the wiring. If you use a power strip, we always use power strips, right? But what kind of power strip are you using? Because I can't tell you how many house fires we've been in, and we'll take a picture and the cause of the power strip. Because a lot of people I was like, oh, well, I got 6 outlets in here. I'm gonna use all 6 of them. Yes and no. Remember, you get what you pay for. So if you buy a power strip that has, one of those heavy duty ones, so if it starts heating up, it shuts off, automatically shuts off. But those kind are good, and those kind you could probably use every outlet inside it because it's geared for that. But if you buy a little cheap $14, $15 power strip and it's got 6 outlets in it, don't use all 6. Because guaranteed, that little cheap power strip is not geared for that much electrical current to go through it. It might look like, oh, well, $14, this is cheap, I'm gonna use this one. But you compare that to one that's around $30 and you can tell the difference. And remember, an electrical current is running through there, so it heats up. And those little plastic power strips will heat up depending on how many outlets you got plugged in there. Next thing you know, it catches on fire. So if you're going to use a power strip and you need to have your TV plugged into it, a lamp, a vacuum, or whatever else, computer, cell phone, make sure it's one that's heavy duty, spending extra money, because it's the last thing you want is to wake up in the middle of the night and there's a fire in your living room or wherever you have your power strip at. Sometimes in our bedroom. So that's important to remember when it comes to power strips, just to make sure that we have the right one. Carbon monoxide, if you don't have one, you have a house, make sure that you do. If you're in an apartment, you don't have a furnace, you don't have to really worry about it. But inside your home, you do. Knowing the signs and symptoms, if you're being poisoned, or someone is being poisoned is very important, because carbon monoxide, can you smell it? No. Can you see it? No. So how do you know if your furnace is going bad? How do you know if you're one of those that have one of those cars that you can't really hear? You pull into your garage and you forget, oh, I didn't turn it off. How do you know? You can't smell it, you can't see it. Carbon monoxide detector will alert you to that. That just happened. A guy just called me last week. I don't know why he called our office. Should call 911. But he said, oh yeah, I got this smoke alarm, carbon monoxide detector you guys installed like 2 years ago, and it woke me up in the middle of the night and it just wouldn't stop. And I couldn't get it to stop. So I need a new one. Well, why? He said, well, I took a hammer to it. Okay, well, all you had to do is take it outside, let some air get to it, and it will shut off. But it shut off for a minute and then it started going off again. I'm like, okay. I said, well, in that case, always call 911. Even if it's a false alarm, call 911. Never take a chance. And then he goes, oh, well, you know what? I think I left my car on all night. My battery's dead. I'm like, oh, my Lord. I said, sir, what you need to do is go outside right now. Exit your home, call 911, tell them you need to have the fire department come out here because your alarm went off, and explain to them what happened. It's like, okay, if your alarm goes off, it's for a reason. Either it's a defect or either pick something up and it's warning you. But whatever the case, never hesitate to call us. And people tell us, oh, well, I didn't want to bug you guys. What do you know? What do you think we get paid to do? What do you think your tax dollars are going? What do you think we train so much for things like this? So we might be in our bed, sleep 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't care. If something goes off, call us. Let us come and check, because we'd rather have a person safe than to go on the call and a person is dead. We don't like to see death. We don't like to see people injured and hurt. So if we can prevent that from happening, or you can prevent it, please do so. Remember, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, never hesitate to call us for little things. Even if you, for some reason you say, well, I woke up this morning and I just don't feel well. I just feel off. It might take forever to go to the doctor. If you're not feeling well, you know your body better than we do. Call 911. Have our medics come out. They'll check your vitals, and if everything is clear, they say, well, we think you have plenty of oxygen. Your heart rate is good, your vitals checked out. They'll ask you if you're on any medication, if you're diabetic, that type of thing. They'll check you all thoroughly, and then if everything checks out, all you have to do is sign off. They'll say, you want to go to the hospital? Well, no. You think I'm okay? Well, we think you're fine. Nothing life-threatening here. Then you sign off, and they go back to the fire station. It doesn't cost you anything. Use it. That's what it's for. If you're in your home and you just smell a slight, I smell something. It's kind of funny. I kind of smell smoke, but I don't see no fire. There's there's nothing burning around here, but every now and then I get a whiff of smoke. You call 911 and let them know this is, well, I kind of get this slight smell of smoke. I don't know where it's coming from. My alarm it's not enough to set off my alarm. We will come and we will check. 2 years ago, we had a lady do that, and she was a big, huge, probably $600,000 home. This house had 3 levels to it, and down in her main level, when we walked in, she told us, well, I just keep getting this faint smell of smoke. I don't know where it's coming from, but there's no fire. My alarms aren't going off. And we every now and then, it's like, yeah, we kind of smell something too. Just very light. It's like, are your windows open? No, her windows weren't open. If they were, it could be, well, maybe it's something coming from the neighbors. But even then, we're going to go check. So we took our heat gun, we started upstairs, and we just started checking the walls back and forth, checking all the outlets, light switches. We got halfway down the hallway, and right in the middle, there was a hot spot of like 120 degrees. Coming behind the wall? No. We said, ma'am, there's something hot behind there. Look, 120 degrees. There's something very hot behind here. She goes, well, so we're going to have to cut out a portion. She goes, do what you have to. We chipped around a like 3x3 area, and sure enough, there were two wires arcing, burning a 2x4. About 10 to 12 inches of 2x4 was just charred. It was like, oh my goodness. I said, okay, well, right away we went and we shut our power off. Told her, we need to call the power company, have them come out here like right away and take care of this. But thank goodness she called us, because had she just let it go, most likely it would have been, that house would have had a fire and lives would have been lost, because it was right in the middle of the hallway. Wasn't nobody jumping out the third story, that home. That's why I always tell people, you know what, even if it's just a slight order, give us a call. We will come out and check it out, and make sure that you're safe, that your neighbors are safe, and then everything checks out, we go right back to the fire station and wait for the next call. So please, take advantage of that. And again, if you have any questions, give us a call. 10 to 12 breaths, and you don't wake up. So that's why it's good to practice. And there's a lot of people that don't realize that keeping their door closed is going to save them. But they did a study. They did actual, let's light a house on fire, and let's keep this door closed and this door open. When they did the after results, everything in this door had the smoke, soot, everything, covered everything. Stuff that's poisonous to you. They opened the other door, a little bit of smoke in there from it getting up under the doors, but so much better quality. And they just imagine now, this door that was open, that will be your lungs. This door that was closed, breathe a lot better. So sleeping with the closed is going to give you at least 4 to 5 minutes of protection. In case you can't get out down the hallway, it's going to be at least 4 or 5 minutes before that fire burns through. And by that time, we'll be there. So when we get that phone call, no matter what time of day, time of night, morning, we normally can make it to anyone's home in our city in about 3 to 5 minutes. So we're there pretty quick. All of our response, we try to get there within 5 minutes, no matter where the call is or the fire is. So we're pretty quick on our feet, and we get tested every year to do our time donning. That's when we have to, the chief will come out and get a stopwatch. We'll have our gear sitting out, and he will time us. And we have 1 minute to get all of our gear on to where none of our skin is showing. That means our boots, our pants, our coat, our hoodie, our mask, our SCBA, our axe, everything has to be on in under 60 seconds. And we get tested every year. And if you don't pass the first time, he'll give you a second chance. And she's like, all right, well, instead of 1 minute, you're a minute and 3 seconds. Oh, just 3 seconds? Yep, I'll come back and check you in another month or two. You don't know when he's coming back, but then he'll come back and be like, all right, Firefighter Gordon, time donning. So I go get my gear off the truck and set it out. All right, ready, set, go. Jump in my boots, pull up my pants, pull up my jacket, put on my hoodie, go on my SCBA, put on my face piece, my helmet, the gloves. Done. And still didn't make it. All right, you got to keep practicing. Evidently, I wasn't practicing, because if you practice, you should be able to do it. Have everything set out just right. Come back the third time, and if you don't pass it the third time, you're out of the job. Because when people's lives are at stake, we can't wait for someone that's slow. Or for someone they're sleeping in the middle of the night, the alarm goes off, and they don't hear it. The next thing you know, instead of a 4-man crew, we're a 3-man crew. Pretty much, when the alarm goes off, if you're not in that seat with your gear on and seat belted, by the time the driver gets in his seat, turns on the fire truck, and heading out the door, you get left behind. Has it happened before? Yes, but we try to prevent that from happening. If I know that my buddy next to me has a hard time hearing the alarm, if I hear it, I'm gonna jump up and I'm like, hey, fire alarm. I'm gonna bang on his door and tell him to get out, and then he'll get up. But we wanna make sure that none of us miss that boat. Because if you do, you're gonna have to write a letter to the fire chief. And if that happens 3 times in a year, you're out of a job. So we view our job is very important. We view your lives is very important. And we don't want someone who's going to slow us down, because we want to get there. I'm sure you want us there as quickly as possible. When people call us, it's not to say, hey, we just want to invite you guys over for dinner. We just wanted to say hi. No, when they call us, it's because something bad happened. And we want to get there to help out. That when they walk into a building, standing up in a fire, we definitely wouldn't do that. Because when there's a fire right here, it's about 500 to 600 degrees. Up by the ceiling, it's 1,200. Just that difference. Down here on the floor, it's about 100. It's hot, And in our bunker gear is, we can withstand 500 degrees of heat. Anything hotter than that, then we start to burn. And I will tell you an experience about myself when I was a new recruit. Now this happened, mind you, 23 years ago, first year on the job. And this was like the third fire I've been to. Through all my training, I know that we never walk into a fire standing up. We're always on our hands and knees. We start low from the get-go. And we opened, it was a duplex that was on fire. And our crew got there first. So it's like, oh, we get to grab, me and my partner get to grab a hose, we get to go in there and put the fire out. I mean, to us, that's just, we're adrenaline junkies. We're so excited. And we want to get in there and be the one to put that fire out. So I follow my partner, I grab the hose, and I see him crawling, but I'm standing up. And I walk in, I get about 5 feet in there, and I'm like, holy cow! And I go running back out. And I just took the snow and threw it on myself, because I'm like, oh, I felt like my head was on fire. It felt like I was literally burning. I'm like, man, what is wrong? Why was it so hot? Then I'm like, oh, jeez, I got smoke in my hand and feet. So I get back on my knees, and follow the hose, because now I just left my partner by himself. So I grab the hose and I follow the hose in, I find him. He didn't know I was gone, because you couldn't see nothing. So I'm moving around with him, and we find the fire, and we put the fire out. And the other crews are doing ventilation and stuff, and another crew, they got another hand line. But by the time they came in, we put the fire out. So we got finished, and by that time I forgot my mistake and what I did. We got finished, we walked up that fire, and I'm just like, yeah, we bad. We put that fire out. I'm all happy and I'm smiling because I'm a new recruit. This is my first year. And then the captain comes over and says, hey, Firefighter Gordon. I'm like, yes, sir. I thought he was going to congratulate me and say, hey, good job. Did you stand up in that fire? Was nobody here? How could he know? I'm like, saw me. I'm like, stand up. I said, no, Captain, you know we don't stand up in fires. We get down on our hands and knees. He goes, huh? He said, take off your helmet. Took my helmet off. And, our helmet is like bright red. That helmet was charred. My face piece that we slide down was completely gone. The whole top of it was just charred black. And I only had that much before it would have burned through. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I did stand up for about a few seconds. And he laughed. He said, He said, I bet you never do that again. I said, you're right. I said, do I have any hair left? No? Well, that's why. So, yeah, I learned my lesson very early on. I mean, like I said, I walked in there standing up, and I said it had to be 10 seconds. And in 10 seconds, it almost burned through my helmet. That's how hot that fire was. And that taught me a very valuable lesson, like, man, and I've never repeated that in 23 years. So I'm good to go.